Guten Tag. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mileva Maric, born in Serbia in 1875. Not too bad for an old lady. Da? Well, can I tell you something just between you and me? When I was a very young child, they said, "Take good care of this young child, for she is a rare phenomenon." Why did they say this? They said this because I was the brightest girl in class. My father was so determined that I should receive the very best education, as good or better than any boy would get. And you know something? I did. Now, because I am so smart, I can tell what you are thinking. You are thinking, Mileva Maric, who is this woman? She is no femme fatale movie star. That is for certain. Do I know her? Well, perhaps if I told you what is my full married name, it is Mileva Einstein Maric. I am wife of Albert Einstein. Yes, the big genius. Well, he's not so big, not yet. But I hope to introduce you to him in a little while, if he will come away from his desk. But enough of this chitta-chatta. That is what you call it in America, yes? The chitta-chatta? You came for something much more important and inspiring. Scientific theories, mysterious planets, solar eclipses. Most importantly, the great North American eclipse of 1878. But you must forgive me. I do not remember it. I was just a young girl of 3 years old in Serbia, not some American girl in Wyoming or Colorado in the wild, wild west. Yoo-hoo! But with your permission, I will be your guide today. Okay? Okay? Okay. Let us start with the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle in the 4th century BCE. He held that all the heavenly bodies circled the earth. That was the prevailing belief and the basis for all theological and scientific work for the next 10 centuries. Then, in the early 1500s, in what is now Poland, Nicholas Copernicus wrote a paper called Little Commentary. In it, he was the first to declare that all spheres revolve around the sun, except for the moon, which revolves around the earth. That this theory of heliocentrism, the idea that the sun is the center of our solar system, contradicted the teachings of Aristotle. So, as you might expect, Copernicus was very reluctant to publish his findings too widely, fearing condemnation from the powers that be. Nearly 30 years after Copernicus's death, Johannes Kepler was born in Germany and became a key figure in the 17th century scientific revolution. He built upon Copernicus's laws of planetary motion and provided a foundation for the theory of universal gravitation. Overlapping with Kepler's lifetime, Galileo Galilei in Italy devised improvements to the early telescopes. Galileo's writings expanding on Copernicus's laws of heliocentrism caused him to be attacked by the Roman Catholic Church and the Inquisition it was waging during the 17th century. Heliocentrism was declared to be foolish, absurd, and heretical. Galileo was sentenced to house arrest, and all of his contemporary and future books were forbidden to be published. That brings us to Sir Isaac Newton, born in England in 1642, that same year that Galileo died. He devised a newly rigorous science of motion, universal in scope. He has been called the supreme genius and most enigmatic character in the history of science. Let us hear from Sir Isaac in his own words. Good day, Sir Isaac. Thank you for joining us. We will not take too much of your time.
It is my great pleasure, Madame Marich. That was quite a memorable journey, I must say, but now I have all the time in the world.
Sir Isaac, you have written about, could you tell us about your great work titled On the System of the World? That is a very grand topic, is it not?
Yes, grand it is. It was written in Latin, you know. It gives a precise account of the way the gravitational tug of the sun, the planets, and the moon influence each other, as well as the complex action of the Earth's tides. You see, this gives a measurable order to the magnificent rise and fall of the sea.
Oh, it sounds quite complex. Do you not believe in simplicity, Sir Isaac?
Madame, you may not know it, but philosophers say that nature does nothing in vain, for nature is pleased with simplicity and not the pomp of superfluous causes. Further, as far as possible, we must assign the same qualities of respiration in man and in a beast, the descent of stones in Europe and in America, the light of our culinary fire and of the sun, as well as the reflection of light in the earth and in the planets.
That seems most fair of you, Sir Isaac.
Oh, thank you. I think so too.
Are you not concerned, sir, that there are those, not as learned as yourself, who may wish to live out their own fantasies about the world without regard to empirical evidence?
We are certainly not to relinquish the evidence of experiment for the sake of dreams and vain fictions of our own devising.
Oh, certainly not, sir.
Send back the clowns, I say. I can foresee how easily the misinformed, if they sink far enough into self-pity, can willfully turn to violence. And I pray that day will never, ever arrive when the world is overrun by them. But who can say what may arise by the 21st century? One can only hope, Madame. One can only hope.
Well, are there any further thoughts you'd like to leave us with, Sir Isaac?
Well, I should like to say, Madame, that the moon gravitates towards the earth and the sea gravitates towards the moon. Likewise, the planets mutually gravitate towards one another. All bodies are endowed with the principle of mutual gravitation and attraction. However, if their forces of gravity are not fixed, you know, the orbits of the planets around the sun would not be stable ellipses. Therefore, they would either fly away from the sun or all spiral inward with great and calamitous power. Oh, but do not be concerned, Madame. That scenario is most unlikely to occur in our lifetimes.
And in our children's lifetimes?
Oh, I have no children, Madame, nor any wives, nor any mistresses for that matter. But we shan't get started on that subject, shall we? Finally, and you may quote me, for any action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction.
Well, your words today have been most inspiring and memorable. Thank you kindly, Sir Isaac.
Well, I should hope so. You know what they say, Madame. Genius is 2.46% inspiration, but 97.54% perspiration, at least. Good day to you, and to your many attentive and good-looking friends as well. Although I must say, there are several blokes dozing in the back row. Must have been dragged here by their wives, poor chaps. Sir Isaac sees you, gentlemen. You may need to have a word with them later, as it is most unlikely I shall manage a return engagement. Travel, you know, in my condition, very arduous indeed. Ta-ta.
Well, now that we have met Sir Isaac, we know a little bit more about the scientific discoveries that lead us to the start of our story. The sun is at the center of the solar system, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planets in their various orbits around it. Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Earth, Venus, and Mercury. Mercury being the closest to the sun. We will hear much more about little Mercury as our story continues. Now, the immense sun and various planets all have gravitational fields which affect one another and can be calculated precisely using Newtonian physics, or such was the prevailing thought during Newton's lifetime and for the next 2 centuries. Well, I'm sure you're wondering how on earth all of this relates to discovering new planets, and especially that North American eclipse of 1878. I assure you, it will all become quite clear. Stick around. Our story begins in Paris. In 1840, we meet Urbain Jean-Joseph Leverrier, a French mathematical astronomer, well known to his colleagues as a brilliant and brash scholar of the skies. Leverrier was intensely engaged for over 6 years in complex calculations to explain small but systematic discrepancies between the observed orbit of the outermost known planet, Uranus, and the orbit predicted using Newton's laws of gravity, which no one at that time questioned. Leverrier described his conclusions in a letter to his colleague, Johann Galle of the Berlin Observatory, in September 1846.
I have presented my third memoir to the Académie des Sciences à Paris, showing that the character of the orbit of the planet Uranus cannot be explained by Newtonian physics alone, as it must be under the effect of another large body outside its orbit. In this paper, I can now confidently give the mass and the orbit of the new body. Despite my compelling calculations, I have been unsuccessful in my efforts to interest any French astronomer in the problem. Therefore, I send you, Herr Galle, my trusted colleague, my results in hopes that within a few days' time, you will be able to locate the predicted planet using the resources of the Berlin Observatory. My mentor, François Arago, my mentor, who has been a great encouragement to my work, would like to name the planet Leverrier. But I do have to believe, I do believe, a more suitable name such as Neptune will prevail if it is confirmed, no, not if, when it is confirmed by telescopic observation.
Herr Galle, I am so glad I got you. I am Heinrich de Rest, an undergraduate student working here at the observatory.
Well, it is a pleasure to meet you, young man.
I hope you don't mind, but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with Dr. Anka back there. You were asking to use the Fraunhofer 24-centimeter telescope tonight. I am very interested in working with that instrument, and I am most curious to learn what is of such urgency. It must be something of the utmost importance.
In fact, it is quite important, and time is of the essence. I've just today received a letter from my colleague, Monsieur Leverrier, at the Paris Observatory with precise calculations of where we might find a planet outside the orbit of Uranus. If his calculations are correct, we could be the first to identify the 8th planet of our solar system this very night.
Oh, this is astonishing indeed.
Perhaps because today is his birthday, Director Anka granted me permission to use the observatory tonight.
I wonder then, Herr Galle, if I could perhaps join you in these observations. I promise not to be very much in the way.
Well, yes, of course, I don't see why not.
Danke, Ergala. I am most grateful.
In fact, you might be able to help me prepare. I've just gotten the standard sky chart, and I'm headed to the observatory now.
If you pardon my suggestion, I have been working with the newest chart. It shows stars that are not on the standard sky chart. It is a part of a series that is awaiting another map, and so it has not yet been widely published. May I suggest you use that chart, as it will give a more accurate plan of the skies?
Wunderbar! Brilliant! I've heard about this. We can compare the chart with the current sky to see what has changed. Planets will have moved, and stars will have remained stationary.
I could check coordinates against the chart while you are viewing through the glass.
Do you know where we can find a copy of this new chart?
Yeah, I have access to that chart. Follow me, bitte.
Oh, great. By delight and lead on, young man.
They did, in fact, discover the eighth planet Neptune that night after less than an hour of searching and less than 1 degree from the position Leverrier had predicted. A remarkable achievement. After 2 further nights of observations in which its position and movement were verified, Galle replied to Leverrier with astonishment. The planet whose place you have computed really exists. You have discovered it at the tip of your pen. Although English astronomers had been simultaneously engaged in the same search, ultimately Leverrier and Galle received credit for the discovery, lending great credibility to Leverrier's reputation as he embarked on his next project. Urbain Leverrier became the director of the Paris Observatory in 1854. Riding high on this and on his Neptune achievement, he turned his attention to Mercury, the solar system's smallest planet and the one closest to the Sun, known to possess an orbital quirk of its own. Rather than the planet returning exactly to the place of origin, it was off by just a bit each time it revolved around the Sun. But why? Using the same majestic clockwork of Newtonian physics he had used to predict the location of Neptune, Leverrier hypothesized that Mercury's orbit is affected by the gravity of an as yet unseen planet. By 1859, he had perfected his calculations. To this phantom planet, presumed to be so close to the Sun, he and others gave the name Vulcan, after the Roman god of fire. Meanwhile, not far from Paris, Edmond Modeste Lescarbot, an unassuming country doctor and avid amateur astronomer, was hard at work observing the heavens. He penned a letter to Leverrier in December, explaining that he had spotted an unknown object transiting the Sun earlier that year. He asked an acquaintance, Monsieur Vallée, to deliver his note to Leverrier in Paris. Immediately upon receiving it, Leverrier and Vallée took the next train and set out to confer with Dr. Lescarbot about his sighting. Might this have been the elusive planet Vulcan?
Vallée, look, that must be Lescarbot's place. Up ahead, it looks like a homemade observatory crudely tacked onto a farmhouse. More of a grain silo than a palace of science, if you ask me. Well, I certainly hope we haven't wasted our time coming here. You know my time is precious.
But are you quite certain he won't mind us arriving like this unannounced, especially so close to Noel?
I should hope he doesn't mind having waited 9 months to contact me about his sighting. What was he waiting for? An invitation from Madame Tussaud? Does he not realize how critical it is to be the first to report a crucial discovery amongst the important people, the scientific elite, la crème de la crème à Paris? Well, here we are. It looks like a doctor's surgery more than an astronomical lab. Well, what are you waiting for, valet? Frappez tout de suite.
Good evening. Bonjour, gentlemen. The doctor is in. Is there an emergency?
Madame, I am Urbain Jean-Joseph Le Verrier, director of the Paris Observatory. This is Monsieur Vallée, my assistant. We have come directly from Paris to discuss with Dr. Lescarbot the letter we received this very morning concerning a transit across the sun of the planet Vulcan.
Oh, my goodness. Please do come in, Monsieur le Directeur. He will be here in just a moment. Please forgive our humble abode and this state of things here. We weren't expecting you.
Louise, is there a patient at the door? Oh, my. Bonjour, Monsieur Valet.
Bonjour.
Monsieur Le Verrier and Valet are here on the way from Paris to speak to you about the letter.
Bonjour, monsieur. I was rather shocked to read in your letter that you believe you have observed the planet Vulcan so brilliantly predicted by my calculations. Transiting across the sun last March, eh? Why in heaven's name did you not inform me immediately, eh? If your finding is accurate, of which I am highly skeptical. This news could rock the astronomical world to its very foundation. Mon Dieu, do you realize what this could mean for my career? Well, perhaps for yours, although to a lesser extent, such as it is. Mon Dieu, the lectures, the interviews, the photographs, the acclaim, the honor, the awards, the citations.
What Le Directeur means is that we are most pleased to have learned of your sighting. Furthermore, we would be much obliged if you could show us your calculations and equipment, merely to verify their accuracy, of course.
I am most honored that you have paid me this unexpected visit, and would be pleased to show you my calculations and my homemade observatory. Although I just recently read of your prediction of such a planet, also I wanted to be sure my calculations were conducted correctly before contacting you personally, Monsieur le Directeur. On March 26th of this year, while viewing the sun, I noticed a small black dot on its face that after some time I realized was moving. I was reminded of the transit of Mercury that I observed in 45. Come over here. I estimated the distance it had already traveled, measured its position and direction of motion. I used this trusted instrument with which I measure my patients' pulses. I measured a total transit time of 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 9 seconds. As I said in my letter, monsieur.
Well, Doctor, I am caught off guard. I'm surprised to say that your calculations do appear to be in order. I will, of course, have to see your glass. But it appears to me that you have observed the transit of our elusive friend Vulcan. Valet, if this is what I think it is, we must make an announcement very quickly. Next week is the meeting of the Académie des Sciences à Paris, and we must be well prepared to speak of it on that occasion.
Of course, we will have his findings confirmed by then, certainly.
Well, without further ado, take us to your observatory, if you dare call it that. I wish to see exactly how, on this little farm, you have somehow been able to observe what I have mathematically predicted must exist. But you know, Valet, we have not wasted our time here tonight.
Oui, d'accord.
Right this way. We'll take this staircase. It's steep and narrow.
Well, mind your steps, s'il vous plaît.
Leverrier's surprise visit did convince him that Dr. Lescarbot had, indeed, observed planet Vulcan transiting the sun, and the announcement was made a few days later as planned. Leverrier's reputation in regard to his discovery of Neptune lent much weight to this announcement, and the astronomical world was now on the hunt to repeat the sighting. Dr. Lescarbot, for his part, was awarded the Légion d'honneur, France's highest award in science, and was invited to speak before numerous learned societies. Nevertheless, he remained a humble country doctor for the rest of his life. But was this theory of planet Vulcan eclipse-proof? The brief period of semi-darkness during a total solar eclipse allows objects close to the sun to be seen, when they normally would be made invisible by the sun's intense glare. Would anyone be able to see this new planet during totality? This question, and many others, we will take up very shortly. You will see. Now, I want to introduce you to Lewis Swift, a hardware store owner and amateur astronomer in Rochester, New York. He was born in Clarkson, Monroe County. A badly set, broken left hip made him lame since age 13, a misfortune that meant he was allowed to have more schooling and less farm work as a boy, leading to his interest in astronomy as a young man. He was also hard of hearing. A good-natured and hard-working man, Swift never smoked, drank, hunted, or fished. He swore only once and scared himself so badly he never repeated it. He had already made a name for himself by having discovered several comets, including one codenamed Swift-Tuttle. Here he is with his wife, Caroline, and their 2 young sons on a cold winter evening at their modest home on Ambrose Street in Northwest Rochester.
Oh, hello, Lewis. Welcome home. How are things down at the store today?
Oh, fairly steady. We're still waiting on a shipment of Klein lineman's pliers. Customers are inquiring, sometimes impatiently. How are the boys?
Oh, fine. We were just clearing up from dinner. I saved you some. They've been asking about you all day. They have something they want to show you tonight.
We made a new game today, Pop. Yeah, I drew the board on the side of the box. It's sort of like checkers, but I changed the colors. And I made up new rules and carved some pieces from pine. Painted them too. Wanna see it, Pop?
Oh, boys, I'm sure it's genius. But tonight is the perfect night for observing. There's no clouds tonight. You know how rare that is here in Rochester, especially in winter. And there's no moon. Oh, maybe I'll get to see that new planet Vulcan.
Oh, Lewis, it's too cold to go out tonight. Can't you just this once stay in and play with the boys?
Can I come with you, Pop? Yeah, me too, Papa. Please.
Oh, I'm afraid not. But I have the most amazing story to tell you. Last night, when I was in the alley looking for comets, a stranger approached me out of nowhere. I soon learned that it was Mr. Addison Bigelow, one of the proprietors of Duffy Cider Mill, just one block over on White Street. Well, he was in his yard, and he said he saw the strange sight of me lying in the ground looking through my telescope with its special Comet Finder eyepiece, and thought that I had to be the devil or a close relative. So he cautiously approached this monster, and finding only me, his neighbor, lying on the ground looking at the stars, he said, "I have a much better place than this for you, Mr. Swift. On the roof of the cider mill. So he's going to bring me around there tonight. That's where I'm going to go tonight." Oh, sorry. So he's going to show me the 3 ladders up to the roof. He says it's a very large, wide open space, over 1/4 of an acre. It's higher than the trees and the houses and the gas lights down in the street. It'll make it a much better viewing spot for me, but a bit too dangerous for you boys. I promise I'll tell you all about it after school tomorrow.
Well, watch out for getting too cold. We don't want you coming down with frostbite. Take an extra blanket or 2. Oh, and your hat.
Well, I hope you see lots more comets tonight, Pop. Yeah, me too, Papa.
Oh, boys, I promise the next cloudy night we'll play your game, all right? After all, it's Rochester. We won't have to wait too long.
Well, let's finish clearing up for dinner. And you two need to get back to your studies.
Aw, Ma.
Now that you've met Professor Swift, you're probably wondering how the self-taught astronomer contributes to the story of providing eclipse proof of planet Vulcan. And I promise we will get there in short order. But first, let us meet 2 of his contemporaries. During the mid-1800s, there were hundreds of asteroids discovered to be orbiting the sun, varying in size from 1-meter rocks to a dwarf planet with a diameter of almost 600 miles. 2 of the most successful and most competitive asteroid hunters were James C. Watson, professor of the University of Michigan, and Dr. Christian H.F. Peters, a German-American with an impressive observatory at tiny Hamilton College in central New York. By the 1870s, they found themselves to be bitter rivals in the race to find asteroids, and on opposite sides of the planet Vulcan debate. James Watson and our Rochester friend, Louis Swift, along with many others, had their chance to seek out the planet Vulcan during an eclipse of the sun, with its path of totality sweeping across a great swath of central North America on July 29, 1878. Funding from Congress allowed the U.S. Naval Observatory to establish 8 observing stations in the West, primarily in Wyoming and Colorado. The turbulent frontier towns of Wyoming Territory had recently been made accessible to Easterners by the Union Pacific Railroad, but were still in the throes of tribal unrest and conflict. Indigenous people were bitter about white intrusions onto their traditional lands and were confronting the futility of that struggle. Watson would be situated in the dusty settlement town of Separation, Wyoming Territory, and Louis Swift would be in Denver, Colorado, some 200 miles southeast of Watson's location and the largest city in the path of totality. Peters, the other asteroid seeker, opted not to observe the eclipse, but remained an outspoken critic of those who did, and was also a staunch Vulcan doubter. They each expressed their opinions in print, but if they had had this debate in person, it might have gone something like this. Watson first.
My plan is to devote my efforts during the total eclipse of 1878 to a search for any planetary bodies which might be visible in the neighborhood of the sun. Now, should I find Vulcan, I have a plan to immediately telegraph the news to Dallas, Texas, where a rider on horseback will alert the observation teams before their totality begins down there. I believe Leverrier's theory is correct. I am convinced that my diligent search, under the best of conditions, will reveal to all the world the existence of one or more masses revolving nearer to the sun than Mercury.
I, too, have carefully planned my search for the planet Vulcan in the months preceding the eclipse. While I have only ever seen it with the eye of faith, I have resolved to dedicate 2 minutes during totality for a rigid search for the hypothetical Vulcan, in whose existence I, for many years, have cherished a hope.
I am following these events with growing skepticism. In truth, I have never had any faith in the existence of intramercurial planets at all. And if you were to ask me whether or not I am ready to accept them, I would say no. I want to see them for myself. Now, even now, I'm preparing a paper which I call Some Critical Remarks on the so-called intermercurial planet hesitations. You may call me tactless for saying this, and I would have no quarrel with you. But you must admit, my insights are sharp and directly to the point.
I do not propose to discuss the integrity of my observations pointing to the existence of intermercurial planets with you, Dr. Peters, a known assailant of the late illustrious Leverrier. I have been engaged in making precise calculations of the stars in the universe for 23 years, having observed the heavens with precision, dedication, and care, and I hope to continue to do so.
If Professor Watson were to observe Vulcan before I, owing to his position in the Wyoming territory as compared with mine in Denver, I would want to harmonize his findings with my own before sending the news via the telegraph to the rest of the world.
Louis Swifts arrived in Denver several days before the eclipse and met up with an old acquaintance, E.D. Smith, who was going to help him record the timing of events as they happened. Maria Mitchell, one of the few women astronomers of her time, was also at the camp at Denver with her class of young women from Vassar College. Finally, the greatly anticipated day arrived, July 29, 1878.
Glorious, above all earthly glories, are the scenes attending a total eclipse of the sun. To some, they convey terror. But to the astronomer, they are full of instruction and wonder. I rode the train from Rochester to Chicago and then on to Denver. I was reminded of my father telling me of the first recorded eclipse in Babylon over 3,000 years ago. He never would have dreamed that one day his son would travel by steam power on iron roads to the furthest reaches of the North American continent. Ah, Smith, you're back. I'm so glad we found this spot on top of Capitol Hill, far from the city's lights, and that we've been able to determine the angle of the North Star at this location.
Yes, I think we are in the best possible place, and all is ready, although it is a bit windy. You may know that Denver has a reputation for dryness, but for the past 6 weeks it has rained and stormed. The people here were worried about the weather, so all the clergymen prayed in their churches for good weather for the eclipse day. And their prayers have been answered. Today, it is clear.
What's that?
I think we're going to have great success today.
Oh, yes. Yes. I am, however, worried about this wind on this effect on the telescope. So I have a trick. I used to do this on the roof of the cider mill back in Rochester. See, we take this pole and we'll attach it, I'd say about a foot above the eyepiece, and then brace the other end firmly to the ground. And then when it comes time for totality, we'll simply whisk it away, and it will allow us a free range of motion. Could you help me with this? Thank you. Oh, there you go. You know, since we've arrived, I've met many eminent astronomers that are here. Professor Arthur C. Ranyard of the Royal Astronomical Society of London, and Professor Charles A. Young of Princeton University. Oh, well, hello, it's Professor Mariah Mitchell. You're acquainted with Professor Young, are you not?
Oh, yes, I am, Professor Swift. My students, 5 wonderful young ladies from Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, not too far from where you live, were all charmed by Professor Young. His modesty, although he was beginning to become quite famous, was in striking contrast to the airs of some of the other masculine scientists.
Quite true, Miss Mitchell, quite true. Oh, did you see the article in the New York Sun? Its Denver correspondent said that your party of women adds a particular interest to the observing of this eclipse, for it is here and now that women are making historic strides for equal rights.
Why, yes, and he went on to say that the success of our small group of women here in Denver to study the eclipse is yet one more arrow in the quiver pointing to the logic of women's suffrage.
Miss Mitchell, we witnessed your group posing for a photograph.
Oh, yes. A photographer asked if we might pose with our telescopes. A rather unusual sight indeed. 6 women astronomers wearing sunbonnets. We all pointed our telescopes in the same direction, toward the sun, of course.
You know, some other astronomers have asked to look through my telescope with its Comet Finder eyepiece, the one that I hope to use to add a new member of the known planets of the solar system.
Well, during the few minutes of totality, we plan to study the corona's shape and color, as well as examine the planets. We have often observed Mercury, Venus, and Mars, but we've never seen hide nor hair of the planet called Vulcan. Have you, Professor Swift?
Well, no, Miss Mitchell, but I'm determined to find it. Miss Mitchell, may I venture to suppose that from time to time you are the recipient of unsolicited advice?
All the time, Professor Swift, all the time. There are times when we women are treated with great discourtesy, to say the very least. And yet, on the other hand, are you familiar with St. Joseph's Home, the Catholic hospital operated by the Sisters of Charity?
Oh, yes, it's right over there, isn't it?
Oh, why, yes. Well, just yesterday, our small group of women was treated to a lovely surprise. When the sisters saw us testing and adjusting our telescopes, some came over and offered us tea.
That is delightful, Miss Mitchell.
It was a gesture of kindness that was most refreshing. You know, tomorrow I'm going to be giving a lecture on the works of Caroline Herschel. She was the first and most distinguished lady astronomer of her age. The proceeds will be used to benefit the Colorado Equal Rights League. Caroline's innate talents were every bit as great as that of her brother William, and yet, as his female assistant, she subordinated her needs to his, and therefore she never reached her full potential. We humans are constantly torn between 2 extremes. For example, war. No matter wherever or whenever it occurs, it means ignorance, stupidity, and cruelty. And yet, on the other hand, it is so uplifting when an astronomical event such as this total eclipse of the sun creates an interest in the celestial realm that exists above us all. Well, it's getting very close to our time. Good day, Professor, and good luck.
Oh, thank you very much. To you as well, Miss Mitchell. To you as well. All right, Smith. It's time to get ready.
You know, I tend to believe Professor Colbert's original calculations, even though the movements of the moon have caused more trouble to estimate than any other body. We'll see if his calculations were right.
Oh, what's that you're using for viewing, Smith?
Oh, it's a trick I heard about in town. I took some of this blue glass I was hoodwinked into buying for my home windows last year. Turned out not to be very effective in preventing sickness, but makes a perfect filter when looking at the sun.
Oh,
I put it in this old black hat to block out light from the sides.
oh, that's very clever. Oh, we have first contact.
My gosh, Professor Colbert was right. Washington was definitely not correct about the time they told us on Saturday.
Time passed, unnoticed by the observers, as they focused on their planned tasks. In just over an hour, totality would begin. In the last 10 minutes before totality, the sun's crescent is reduced to a hairline. The temperature drops dramatically. Shadows sharpen. The breeze picks up. Birds cease their daytime activities. Chickens come home to roost. Nighttime animals emerge from their dens.
I'm seeing projections resembling sparks of electricity on the sun's crescent. I've never heard of this described before. Soon I should see Bailey's beads. Some say they're caused by the sun's light passing between mountains on the moon. Oh, they're emerging now. Oh my, 28, 20. There must be 30 of them. Oh.
I can't believe how quickly it's turning to night. Totality will be beginning right now. It is safe to view without protection now. You plan 10 seconds and then the search for Vulcan.
Oh, the sun's corona. A glorious, shimmering curtain of light. Oh, 10 seconds go so quickly. Right. Onto Vulcan. What? Oh, no. Oh, dear, the pole. In our excitement, we forgot to remove it.
What should I do? Shall I untie it?
No, it'll take too long. I'll just have to search this area west of the sun. Oh, of all days. Oh. Wait. What's this? I see 2 stars, both red, very close together, approximately the 5th magnitude, 5 degrees southeast of the sun, 8 minutes apart. No, 12 minutes apart. Both red.
What are they?
2 stars, very close together. One might be the star Theta in the constellation Cancer. The other one, I'm sure is not on any of my charts. I'm going to make one more sweep.
Time allotted for Vulcan search almost up.
Yes.
You reserve time at the end to view the other phenomena.
Yes, I'm running out of time. Oh no, of all days, there's a cloud covering that area. I can't see it anymore.
40 seconds until the end of totality,
Oh,
sir.
well, that's that then. Oh, what a most amazing day. We won't say anything so grand in our heavens in this hemisphere until 1900. I must simply take this all in. I'm seeing 2 protuberances now revealed by the advancing moon. One rises in the stem of 100,000 miles or more and divides like 2 heads of wheat on one stalk. And the chromosphere. Oh no, it may have only been 2 seconds, but I saw the chromosphere.
Yes, 2 seconds, sir.
Oh, we have third contact. Totality is ended. Oh my. I dare not say it yet. But if, as I believe, that star will be proved to be Vulcan, it will never be forgotten. Thus, one by one, does man's energies conquer the secrets of nature. Come, let us tell the others.
Next morning, a dispatch came from Wyoming Territory that Professor Watson thought he saw 2 objects very near the position Swift had marked. Over the next days and weeks, the calculations were done and redone, and compared to Leverrier's and Lescarbault's findings decades earlier. Some measurements didn't align exactly, and there was even speculation that Swift and Watson had seen 4 different bodies between the two of them, leading to a theory that an asteroid belt rather than a single planet was causing Mercury's curious orbit. But the press and the public were convinced and declared Swift and Watson had seen the planet Vulcan. But Peters was far from convinced.
I am following these events with growing skepticism. Now that we have all experienced this eclipse, I should like to point out that of all of the observers of so-called Vulcan planet, only these 2 have reported seeing anything unusual. And without hesitation, they pronounce having sighted intermercurial planets. Clearly, they have overestimated the accuracy of their technique.
The accuracy of my technique cannot be impeached by all the negative evidence in the world, Dr. Peters. There are no known stars in the portion of the sky that I searched. Hence, I cannot be mistaken as to the identity of the objects which I observed.
I should like to remind you, sir, that my many years of successful comet hunting in Rochester have taught me much astronomical technique. But I'm not infallible. Because of the pole that I had attached to the telescope and then failing to remove it during totality, my field of view was confined to a small area. But as I swept this area, I ran across my prey. This may have been the same object as seen by Professor Watson. So it's to my blunder that we owe the discovery of the stranger that we call Vulcan.
I do not wish to impugn your technique, Mr. Swift. However, I should like to suggest that what you think you observed could be due to wishful thinking on your part. Only go so far to assert that those objects somewhat imaginary. Perhaps the strain of the pole, or when you try to release your telescope from that strange yoke you tied it to, you may have moved your lenses to a different star group entirely. Or maybe the strain of the pole against the tube caused your lenses to see double.
I think not. That's impossible.
Anyhow, clearly Professor Watson and Mr. Swift's observations do not confirm one another, but rather contradict. Neither one affords proof that really intermercurial planets have been observed. These are not true observations in the astronomical sense. They consist of general statements without precision, often contradictory, and always incomplete.
It matters not to me what you think or what motives prompt your action, Dr. Peters. I know whereof I affirm. Whether or not the 2 new objects which I observed were intermercurial planets, I cannot positively assert, but I certainly have the right to express my honest belief that they are. I hope to be able to give, before very long, good reasons for the faith that is in me.
In recognition of his outstanding accomplishments in astronomy, Lewis Swift received an honorary doctorate from University of Rochester in 1879. He began to be known as Dr. Swift, or Professor Swift, as the press had already started calling him years before, due to his many free lectures given around Rochester to share, one, his love of astronomy. He continued to discover comets from the rooftop observing station and win scientific medals, 9 in all, more than any other astronomer of his time. These accolades and his fame from the presumed Vulcan discovery, although doubted by some, led him be noticed by H. H. Horner, Rochester's local patent medicine king. Here they are in 1880 as Swift completes one of his many lectures to an enthusiastic Rochester audience.
Finally, as to the sun's corona during totality, both its upper and lower portions were graced by the most exquisite traceries, bending over left and right like plumes of ostrich feathers. The intervals between were of the most delicate blue, with streamers and filaments seeming to pulsate. A glowing halo surrounding the ink-black moon eclipsing the sun from our sight. It was truly a unforgettable and magnificent experience. Well, thank you for coming to my lecture this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Swift, my good man, it has been wonderful to hear of your love of astronomy and your magnificent description of the heavens. Hulbert Harrington Warner, all of my friends call me HH.
Well, it's an honor to meet you, sir. I, of course, have seen your advertisements for your many cures. What brings you to my lecture this evening?
Well, I know a good and productive man when I see one. Naturally, I'm inclined to keep close tabs on him when I do.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Warner.
Now, Swift, you must know that I am most impressed with that gold medal you received from the fine folks in, was it, Berlin? Oh. What was the name of that organization again?
It was the Imperial Academy of Science in Vienna, sir.
Precisely, the Imperial Academy of Science in Vienna. You must know how much value I place on a good solid piece of gold, do you not, Swift?
Yes, well...
Certainly you do, Swift. Certainly you do.
Yes, well, I do now, sir.
Now, my reputation must have preceded me as that of a vigorous businessman and an honest broker of the new promotional type. I am confident you are aware of my remarkable success as a distributor of iron safes. And certainly you are aware of my even more prolific and profitable success in the manufacture and sale of Warner's Safe Cure Pills. Highly effective against kidney, liver, and bladder ailments, Bright's disease, urinary disorders, female complaints, general debility, and malaria, enthusiastically endorsed by the best pharmacist worldwide.
Bright's disease?
Why, yes, I've had it myself, also known as dropsy, associated with kidney failure.
Oh, dropsy, yes.
Oh, yes, and at only $1.25 per bottle, as we are fond of saying. Warner's Safe Remedies belt the globe. Ooh. Care for a swallow, Swift?
Oh, no, I never did anything.
Not to mention Warner's Log Cabin Sarsaparilla cough and consumption remedy, or our Tippecanoe bitters. Over 7,000 gallons per day, all from my lavish production facility on St. Paul Street downtown. Such a fine edifice. It shall certainly outlast us all. Heal thyself, Swift. Heal thyself. Ooh. Oh. Right. Now, Swift, you must know that just recently I've completed the construction on my new home built on East Avenue.
Oh, yes, sir. I've seen it in all of the newspapers.
Well, then you must know that some in this town, and I will not say whom, would call it a pretentious mansion. The most costly and flamboyant one yet erected in the history of Rochester, New York.
Well,
I will have you know that others have compared it to a piece of frozen music. Its unexpected turrets, battlemented gables, protective porticos and jutting windows, presenting new surprises, new beauties from almost every point of view, within and without, that surely no other house in Rochester could possibly rival.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you something, Swift. It is not enough.
It's not enough?
No! It is just not enough. In point of fact, I have been so consumed with creating and promoting my various enterprises across the globe that I have not given sufficient thought to the local community.
The local community, sir?
Why, yes, the Rochester community. As a man of means, and no robber baron, mind you, it is imperative that I take a more substantial interest in civic affairs. Just look at Hiram Sibley, the patron of the university, or Daniel Powers and his art gallery. Rumor has it that Mortimer Reynolds is planning the establishment of a public library. And lest we forget about Asa Sewell, the angel of our various local sports teams.
Yeah. Oh, of course, sir.
Now, it is my understanding that you have been given to conducting your various celestial adventures down in an alley or up on the roof of a cider mill over the city's northwest side. Is my understanding correct, Mr. Swift?
Yes, it is, sir.
And I am further persuaded that these are not exactly sweet spots from which to view the heavens. Am I correct in my assumption, Mr. Swift?
Yes, certainly, sir.
Well, I have come to a momentous decision of astronomical proportions. I propose to build an observatory within the city of Rochester for your exclusive use.
Oh.
Provided you can raise sufficient funding within the city of Rochester to procure the type of telescope that would make this venture worthwhile.
Oh.
I trust that you understand what I mean, Professor Swift.
Yes. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I already have interested backers for my telescope and the timepieces we're going to need. We have an agreement, Mr. Warner.
The Warner Observatory was opened in 1882 at the corner of East Avenue and Arnold Park on Rochester's fashionable East Side, not far from the Warner Mansion. It was the only one in the nation open to the public, and the admission fee of 25 cents was waived 2 days a week. For his efforts in hitching his sales wagon to the tail of Comet Swift, H. Warner was elected a member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Swift ran the observatory, finally realizing his dream of making astronomy his full-time career, and lived in the attached residence with his family. Warner supported it for 11 years until his business went bankrupt in the economic panic of 1893, whereupon Swift moved his telescope and other equipment to California, seeking warmer temperatures, fewer clouds, and more plentiful stars when observing the heavens. He ran the Mount Lowe Observatory until his declining health prevented him from continuing, before eventually relocating to Cortland in central New York to be with his family during his final years. Lewis Swift died in 1913 at age 93, having opened new vistas for his hometown community and for his chosen profession of astronomy. Towards the end of the 19th century, it was becoming clear that the supposed planet Vulcan existed only in the imaginations of fewer and fewer astronomers. Many more attempts to provide proof of the planet during other eclipses around the world came up with no further sightings. If Vulcan did not exist, then what accounted for the eccentric orbit of Mercury? American astronomers Simon Newcomb, Asaph Hall, and William Wallace Campbell took Newton's law of gravitation, the gold standard for 2 centuries, and tried to modify it to justify Mercury's motion. But how far would they dare to go?
Asaph, I've compiled the observations from all of the reports we've gotten back to our Astronomical Society after the eclipse. And I'm more convinced now than ever that Leverrier's hypothesis of a planet Vulcan can now be rendered invalid, although there is no way of positively disproving it at this time. For that, we're going to need someone to offer new calculations or a whole new way of thinking, or both. My confidence that this debate about Vulcan would be settled within the structured framework of Newtonian theory has all but vanished. Leverrier's statement of a celestial government now lies dead at our feet, and we're beginning to find flaws in other parts of Newton's plan as well.
Well, as you know, Siphon, I have started tinkering with Newton's law of gravitation. Although the modification is minor, I believe the implications are vast. What's more, my calculations have entirely ruled out the possibility of a planet within the orbit of Mercury. The conceptual shift is monumental. Once one is prepared to modify the foundations of Newtonian theory with the arisal of new facts as they're found, the possibility of rejecting the whole theory becomes a live option. Well, what do you think, Bill?
Clearly, every line of Leverrier's work would have to be challenged in order to keep Newton laws intact. Every line of Leverrier's work would have to be challenged to keep Newtonian cosmology intact. Thank you. Their problem with Mercury's orbit, though, could lead to other developments throughout Newtonian cosmology as well. Say, Simon, when you were out searching for Vulcan in Wyoming during the eclipse, you saw nothing new, right? Just the starts as they are already plotted on the graph.
Yeah, precisely, Bill. Although Jim Watson, when he and I were out in Wyoming together,
Jim Watson,
he thought he saw something just as totality was ending. He frantically tried to get me to corroborate it. But I could see nothing unusual at all. And that Swift fellow, the comet chaser from Rochester,
you remember?
When he was posted out in Denver during the eclipse, he imagined he saw something as well. Swift, what's his first name again?
Jonathan Swift.
No, that's not it.
Taylor Swift.
What? Taylor Swift. Wrong era, Bill, wrong era.
I have it. It's Lewis Swift.
Yeah.
That's Lewis Swift. You know, he reminds me of another fellow from Rochester by the name of Eastman, I think. Seems he's trying to make photography so easy that anybody could do it. Can you imagine that? No more hauling around those heavy glass plates or those giant bulk cameras. So you remember what we had to do? You know, wash off all of the plates and then coat them with this gooey emulsion and take them back to the dark room and develop them in the dark room while the plates were still gooey. You needed a darn mule team to haul all of that stuff around. But the results The results could be spectacular, mind you, if you were Matthew Brady or
Lewis Margaret Cameron?
Cameron, yeah.
You push the button. We'll do the rest.
What's the world coming to if everyone's snapping shutters and taking cheap snapshots?
You might as well try to send a photograph through the telegraph wire. Or tap out any question and get an answer back at once online. Maybe even the right answer.
Online.
More likely, fabricated falsehoods. Science fiction. Balderdash.
You know, I'll bet our friend Professor Swift is trying right now to convince his neighbor, Mr. Eastman, into making a photographic plate that would capture the image of an invisible planet Vulcan. Can you imagine that? Making a photograph of a planet that's not even there.
Not even there.
That exists only in our own somewhat fevered imagination.
What would you call that?
You know, I'd call an image like that an astro-spiritual electronic field phantom photograph.
You know, I'll bet Watson and Swift are the only ones still pining after the planet Vulcan. Much against their own better judgment, I'd say. Listen, if they can't have their own real planet, what say the three of us pitch in and buy them each an astro-spiritual electronic field
phantom photograph.
I'll bet Mr. Eastman would oblige. We'll title it Vulcan Not.
Not.
Vulcan not.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, gentlemen, please, all joking aside, I think we can safely say that due to our careful investigations, we can finally put this astronomical problem of the planet Vulcan, famous for a half a century, conclusively to a close. And I am pleased to say, and find these wonderful cigars. I think that it is finally passed from unlikely legend to the Dust Bowl of history.
In the end, these astronomers never did solve the problem. Their ideas were clever, but ultimately incorrect and insufficient. Instead, its resolution came from a radical new idea in physics. As you will see, the correct non-Newtonian explanation for the unusual motion of Mercury was found by Albert Einstein in 1915 at our home in Berlin. Only 70 years earlier, Berlin was the city where the discovery of Neptune, thanks to the brilliant collaboration of Leverrier and Gala, had brought Newtonian theory to its highest peak. Oh, Albert, take a break from your work a little while. You look tired. Come sit by me for a little bit. I've just finished the calculations you were asking about. I think you are really onto something with this general relativity theory. You know, I proudly told Helene recently that one great work would make you world famous.
Oh, she is a wonderful friend. You and she helped to confirm my faith in a paper I had written when I was just 16 years old and living in Italy, more than a year before we met. Parlo italiano, non è così?
Sì, è così vero, Alberto. I was almost 20. I also remember how from time to time you would help with the housework back in our early days. It troubled you that after completing the household chores, I was working out the calculations in your notes very late at night until well after midnight.
Oh, yes, Mika, I remember that so well.
Albert, I've been wondering how the space-time theory you're working on relates to the matter of Mercury's orbit. You know, the one that has caused such a fuss over the mystery planet they call Vulcan.
Well, the astronomers who insisted there must be a planet between the Sun and Mercury to explain its orbital quirk were using the tools of Newtonian physics of gravitation between bodies.
Yeah.
These are valid, but only up to a point. They theorized that Mercury's orbit was pulled out of shape by its proximity to a mystery rock they called Vulcan. Seems they believed in their wishes more than in what really exists. But they failed to understand it wasn't the invisible, non-existent Vulcan. It was the exquisitely enormous sun in plain sight to us every day. What they did not take into account was this. The sun's gigantic gravitational weight causes it to bend the fabric of space-time nearby, the way a giant boulder would put a dent in a huge trampoline. The sun's gravity will also bend a ray of light, you know. So that's how it is with Mercury, like a golf ball, circling a giant flaming boulder which would have a diameter of 13 meters or 40 feet. The orbit of little Mercury is affected by the warp in space-time created by the immense gravitational influence of the nearby sun. Now, Mercury's orbit may seem irregular, but it is the physical response of a small planet in motion around the nearby much larger sun, also in motion around the galaxy. There is no need to justify anything with a Vulcan or two Vulcans or with magic Vulcan pixie dust. My theory of general relativity makes that perfectly clear, plain und simple. Ja? Ja? Ja! Ja! Well, I know you understand, Mika.
Yes, Albert, yes, I do.
By the way, when I was at my desk a few moments ago, I thought I heard an unfamiliar voice down here.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Oh, but maybe it was all in my head. Never mind.
Maybe. Albert, what would you say if I told you I was seeing another scientist?
Seeing another scientist. Oi, Mika, you know I'm a jealous guy.
Not that way, Albert. Seeing him in my mind's eye. You know how you have given birth to some radical notions about the universe. Well... Sir Isaac, welcome back. I trust your time travels were not too difficult this time.
Greetings, Madame Marich. No, not difficult at all, somehow. And nothing to compare with the bubonic plague years of 1665 and 1666 in Cambridge and London. After retreating to Lincolnshire post-haste to avoid infection, I was able, at the age of 24, to devote my full energies to the study of mathematics, mechanics, optics, gravitation. Some might say I created them. But in any case, it was such a productive time that I call it my annus mirabilis. Latin for my miraculous year. It was more like 20 months, but who's counting?
Well, I'm glad to hear that not only did you survive, but thrive.
Thank you.
Sir Isaac, you have written about your knowledge of giants. Could you care to elaborate?
Oh, of course. It was in a letter to my arch rival, Robert Hooke, A most disagreeable fellow, by the way. After paying him a compliment on the quality of his work, I added, almost as an afterthought, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. That remark had nothing to do with his work, of course, so I'm afraid it was a bit of a non sequitur. Sorry, more Latin. A conclusion or statement that does not follow logically from the previous argument or statement.
Well, if I may, a non sequitur, I would like to introduce you to my husband. I think you would enjoy each other's company. Sir Isaac Newton, I present to you Albert Einstein.
Delighted to meet you, Mr. Stein.
That is Einstein.
Sorry, Mr. Einstein. And what kind of work do you do?
Well, sir, for many years I was an examiner in the patent office in Bern, Switzerland.
A clerk in an office, eh? That must have been exciting work.
Well, it was fine. It enabled me to come in contact with the greatest ideas coming from the most innovative minds in all of Europe. Some of the giants of my time, you might say. They gave me so much to think about.
Well, I'm certain you must have learned a lot.
Well, yes, I did.
No doubt. And just what did you learn, Mr. Einstein?
Well, I was looking out the window at work once, and I realized that the problems that exist in this world cannot be solved by the same thinking that created them in the first place. To raise new questions, new possibilities, to regard old problems from a new angle requires creative imagination and curiosity. This encourages great advances in science and in life as well. You see, if I had only 1 hour to save the world, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and only 5 minutes finding a solution. And I would strive not to be a success, but to be of value to my fellow man. This is some of what I have learned, Sir Isaac.
Well, Mr. Einstein, you are much wiser than you look.
Well, thank you. And if I could return the compliment, I certainly would. And it is Dr. Einstein, if you do not mind.
Sir Isaac, if you could tell us more about the giants upon whose shoulders you have had the privilege of standing.
With great pleasure, madame. It was Nicholas Copernicus who said, it may be true that those things which I am now saying sound obscure, but they will be made clearer in their proper place and time. What do we learn from Copernicus, apart from the heliocentric nature of the solar system? Patience.
And from my husband's countrymen in Germany?
If my false figures came near to the facts, this happened merely by chance. Yet it gives me great pleasure to remember along how many walls I had to grope in the darkness of my ignorance, till I found the door that let in the light. In such a manner did I dream of the truth. Johannes Kepler teaches us perseverance.
And let us not forget one of my favorite giants, un Italiano.
Exactly, Dr. Einstein. From Galileo Galilei, we learn modesty. There have been open to this vast and most excellent science, of which my work is merely the beginning, ways and means by which other minds, more acute than mine, will explore its remotest corners.
And what we learned from the great Sir Isaac Newton.
I do not know how I may appear to the world, but to myself I seem to have been only like a boy, playing on the seashore and diverting myself now and then by finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary. whilst the great ocean of truth lie all undiscovered before me.
And if I may quote the world's first female astronomer, Caroline Herschel, who said, if only people knew the amount of pleasure that comes from the study of science, they would make it their life's work. For the stars speak to us in a language that is far beyond words, but can be understood by those who are willing to listen. From her we learn curiosity.
You see, the main thing is never to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. I cannot help but be in awe when I contemplate the marvelous structure of reality, the mystery of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries to comprehend just a little of this great mystery each and every day. Oh, thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for coming. I hope this play has piqued your curiosity about local history and about eclipse science. And so please bring those questions to our Q&A session, which will be in about 5 minutes right here. We'll take a quick stretch break. Don't go away. Please come back and ask your questions. Thank you for coming.